Section 3 of Great Pirate Stories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Ian Hatley. Great Pirate Stories by various authors. Edited by Joseph Louis French. Section 3. The Malay Proas by James Fenimore Cooper. We had cleared the straits as soon as early in the morning, and made a pretty fair run in the course of the day, though most of the time in thick weather. Just as the sun set, however, the horizon became clear, and we got a sight of two small sail, seemingly heading toward the coast of Sumatra. Pull-ups by the rig and dimensions, they were so distant, and so evidently steering for the land, that no one gave them much thought, bestowed on them any particular attention. Proas in that quarter were usually destructed by the ships, it is true, but the sea is full of them, and far more are innocent than are guilty of any acts of violence. Then it became dark soon after these crafts were seen. Night set them in. An hour after the sun had set, the wind fell to a light air. The jets kept the steerage way on the ship. Fortunately, the John was not only fast, but she minded her helm as a light-footed girl turns in a lively dance. I never was in a better steering ship, most especially in moderate weather. Mr. Marble had the middle watch that night. Of course, I was on deck from midnight until 4 in the morning. It proved misty most of the watch, and for quite an hour we had a light drizzling rain. The ship the whole time was close-hauled, carrying royals. As everybody seemed to have made up his mind to a quiet night, when without any reefing or furling, most of the watch were sleeping about the decks, or wherever they could get good quarters, and be at least in the way. I do not know what kept me awake, for lads of my age are apt to get all the sleep they can, but I believe I was thinking of Clawbonny and Grace and Lucy, for the latter, excellent girl she was, often crossed my mind in those days of youth and comparative innocence. Awake I was, and walking in the weather gangway, a sailor's trot. Mr. Marble, he ought to believe, was fairly snoozing on the hincoups, being like the sails, as one might say, very asleep. At that moment I heard a noise, one familiar to seamen, that of an oar falling in a boat. So completely was my mind bent on other and distant scenes, that at first I felt no surprise, as if we were in the harbor surrounded by craft of various sizes, coming and going at all hours. But a second thought destroyed this illusion, and I looked eagerly about me. Directly on our weather bow, distant, perhaps a cable's length, I saw a small sail, and I could distinguish it sufficiently well to perceive it was a proa. I sang out, "Sail ho! And close aboard!" Mr. Marble was on his feet in an instant. He afterwards told me that when he opened his eyes, for he admitted this much to me in confidence, they fell directly on the stranger. He was too much of a seaman to require a second look in order to ascertain what was to be done. "Keep the ship away! Keep her broad off!" he called out to the man at the wheel. "Lay the yards square! Call all hands, one of you! Captain Robbins, Mr. Kite, bear a hand up! The bloody Proas are aboard us!" The last part of this call was uttered in a loud voice, with the speaker's head down the companionway. It was heard plainly enough below, but scarcely at all on deck. In the meantime, everybody was in motion. It's amazing how soon sailors are wide awake when there's really anything to do. It appeared to me that all our people were mustered on the deck, and that's in a minute. Most of them with nothing on but their shirts and trousers. The ship was nearly before the wind by the time I heard the captain's voice. Then Mr. Kite came bustling in among us forward, ordering most of the men to lay aft to the braces, remaining himself on the forecastle, and keeping me with him to go to the seats. On the forecastle, the strange sail was no longer visible, being now abaft by the beam. But I could hear Mr. Marble swearing there were two of them, and that they must be the very chaps we had seen to leeward and standing for the land at sunset. Also heard the captain calling out to the steward to bring him up a powder horn. Immediately after, orders were given to let fly all our seats forward, and then I perceived that they were wearing the ship. Nothing saved us but the prompt order of Mr. Marble to keep the ship away, by which means, instead of moving toward the Proas, we instantly began to move from them. Although they went 3 feet to our 2, this gave us a moment of breathing time. As our seats were all flying forward, and remained so for a few minutes, it gave me a leisure to look about. I soon saw both Proas, and gliding up was I to perceive that they had not approached materially nearer. Mr. Kite observed this also, and remarked that our movements had been so prompt as to take the rascals aback. He meant they did not exactly know what we were at, and had not kept away with us. At this instant, the captain and 5 or 6 of the oldest seamen began to cast loose all our starboard and weather guns, 4 in all and 6s. We had loaded these guns in the straits of Banca with grape and canister, in readiness for just such pirates as were now coming down upon us, and nothing was wanting but the priming and a hot loggerhead. It seems 2 of the last had been ordered in the fire when we saw the Proas at sunset, and they were now in excellent condition for service, live coals being kept all around them at night by command. I saw a cluster of men busy with the second gun from forward, and could distinguish the captain pointing to it. "There cannot well be any mistake, Mr. Marble," the captain observed, hesitating whether to fire or not. "Mistake, sir? Lord, Captain Robbins, you might cannonade any of the islands astern for a week, and never hurt an honest man. Let them have it, sir. I'll answer for you. You do good." This settled the matter. The loggerhead was applied, and one of our 6s spoke in a smart report. A breathless stillness succeeded. The Proas did not alter their course, but neared us fast. The captain levelled his night glass, and I heard him tell Kite, in a low voice, that they were full of men. The word was now passed to clear away all the guns, to open the armsets, to come at the muskets and pistols. I heard the rattling of the boarding pikes too, as they were cut adrift from the spanker boom, and fell upon the decks. All this sounded very ominous, and I began to think we should have a desperate engagement first, and then have all our throats cut afterward. I expected now to hear the guns discharged in quick succession, but they were got ready only, not fired. Kite went aft, and returned with 3 or 4 muskets, and as many pikes. He gave the latter to those of the people who had nothing to do with the guns. By this time the ship was on a wind, steering a good full, while the 2 Proas were just abeam and closing fast. The stillness that reigned on both sides was like that of death. The Proas, however, fell a little bit more astern, the result of their own manoeuvring, out of all doubt, as they moved through the water much faster than the ship, seeming desirous of dropping into our wake, with the design of closing under our stern and avoiding our broadside. As this would never do, and the wind freshened so as to give us 4 or 5 knot away, a most fortunate circumstance for us, the captain determined to tack while he had room. The John behaved beautifully, and came round like a top. The Proas saw there was no time to lose, and attempted to close before we could fill again. This they would have done with 99 ships in 100. The captain knew his vessel, however, and did not let her lose her way, making everything draw again, as might be by instinct. The Proas tacked to, and laying up much nearer to the wind than we did, appeared as if about to close in on our lee bow. The question was now whether we could pass them or not before they got near enough to grapple. If the pirates got on board us, we were hopelessly gone, and everything depended on coolness and judgment. The captain behaved perfectly well in this critical instant, commanding a dead silence and the closest attention to his orders. I was too much interested at this moment to feel the concern that I might otherwise have experienced. On the forecastle it appeared to us all that we should be boarded in a minute, for one of the Proas was actually within 100 feet, though losing her advantage a little by getting under the lee of our sails. Kite had ordered us to muster forward of the rigging to meet the expected leap with a discharge of muskets, then to present our pikes, when I felt an arm thrown around my body and was turned inboard while another person assumed my place. This was Neb, who had thus coolly thrusted himself before me in order to meet the danger first. I felt vexed, even while touched with the fellow's attachment and self-devotion, but had no time to betray either feeling before the crews of the Proas gave a yell and discharged some 50 or 60 matlocks at us. There was full of bullets, but they all went over our heads. Not a soul on board the John was hurt. On our side, we gave the gentlemen the 4 sixes, 2 at the nearest and 2 at the sternmost proa, which was still near a cable's length distant. As often happens, one seemingly farthest from danger fared the worse. Our gaping canister had room to scatter, and I can at this distant day still hear the shrieks that arose from that craft. They were like the yells of fiends in anguish. The effect of that proa was instantaneous. Instead of keeping on after her consort, she wore short around on our heel and stood away in our wake on the other tack, preparing to get out of the range of our fire. I doubt if we touched a man in the nearest proa. At any rate, no noise proceeded from her, as he came up under our bows fast. As every gun was discharged, and there was not time to load them, all now depended on repairing the boarders. Part of our people mustered in the waist, where it was expected the proa would follow alongside, and part on the forecastle. As this distribution was made, the pirates cast their grapnel. It was admirably thrown, but caught only a rattling. I saw this, and was about to jump onto the rigging to try what I could do to clear it, when Neb again went ahead of me and cut the rattling with his knife. This was just as the pirates had abandoned sails and oars, and had risen up to haul alongside. So sudden was the release that 20 of them fell by their own efforts. In this state, the ship passed ahead, all of her canvas being full, leaving the proa motionless in her wake. In passing, however, the 2 vessels were so near that those aft and the John distinctly saw the swarthy faces of their enemies. We were no sooner clear of the Proas than the order was given, "Ready about!" The helm was put down, and the ship came into the wind in a minute. As we came square with the 2 Proas, all our larboard guns were given to them, and this ended the affair. I think the nearest of the Ratchers got it this time, for away she went, after her consort, both running off toward the islands. We had made a little show of chasing, but it was only a feint, for we were too glad to get away from them to be in earnest. In 10 minutes after we tacked the last time, we ceased firing, having thrown some 8 or 10 round shot after the Proas, and we were close hauled again, heading into the southwest. This article is from Afloat and Ashore. Into Section 3. Recording by Ian Hatley.